Okay, so Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The second session is on the miracles of Dawood alayhi salam. So far, we have learned about Dawood alayhi salam and about his features and what type of a person he was and what he did. Now, in the second session, we'll talk about a few miracles of Dawood alayhi salam. Now, first and foremost, we've learned when we were very young as well that there are four main books. And can you tell me what the four main books are? You might want to even write it in the chat. Like Allah sent four main books. I'll give you the first one. It's called Tawrah. What do you think the other books are called, if you know? The first one is Tawrah. The second one was, or is, Zabur. And who was Zabur given to? So Dawood alayhi salam was a prophet who was given an actual book. He was given a book, and that book, as we know, is called Zabur. And it was a book for his people. And in it were the commands of Allah. Like we have the Holy Quran. They had the Zabur a long, long time ago. And in it were the orders and commands of Allah Ta'ala. Do you know the name of this book? So now you know what was the book called? The book is called Zabur. The book is called Zabur. The first one is Tawrah. The second given to Dawud alayhi salam is Zabur. Then we have the Injil. And then we have the Holy Quran, which we follow and which we read and which is perfect. So that's the first thing Dawud alayhi salam was given. He was given a book called the Zabur. Secondly, Dawud alayhi salam was known for his amazing voice that he had. That when he would recite the Zabur, everyone would just fall in love with his voice. His voice was that nice, and I'm sure many of you pray the Holy Quran so nicely. But Dawud alayhi salam's voice was a miracle. He was bestowed with a beautiful voice. The birds would even sing with him. That's how nice his voice was. Imagine you praying Quran and the birds sing with you or they chirp with you. That's the most beautiful thing ever, that even they were in love with his voice. So the birds would sing with him. And on top of that, the mountains would join him as well in glorifying Allah. Even the mountains would take part. Imagine how nice his voice must have been for the birds and the animals and the mountains, all of them to glorify Allah and to chirp and to just pray along with Dawood alayhi salam. So that was a miracle, obviously, of Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. So firstly, we learned what first miracle did he have? He was given the book known as Zabur. And we also learned that he had a beautiful voice that even the birds would sing with him and even the mountains would start to glorify Allah Ta'ala. Imagine how beautiful his voice must have been, and we can't even imagine how beautiful his voice must have been. Thirdly, he could speak all languages as well. He could understand animals. Yes, he could understand any different animals. He could even speak to them. So not just only he could understand them, but he could also speak to animals, and the birds even stopped for him. Like we remember, like even the birds that would go out in the morning and come back in the evening, but on their journey, if they were to hear Dawud alayhi salam praying, reciting the Zabur, and even they would stop whatever they're doing and they would just join in with Dawud alayhi salam. He could speak to everything, could speak to animals and everything else. So that's one of the great miracles of Dawud alayhi salam that we know. The first one was he was given a book. The second one was that he had a beautiful voice. And thirdly, he could speak all languages. How many languages can you speak? Fourthly, he also had great strength. So he was bestowed with a beautiful voice, and the birds would sing with him, which we've done, and the mountains would join him in glorifying Allah. But on top of that, he had great strength, such that he would even be able to um, bend metal. So he had iron and he was able to even bend metal with his own hands. So he had a huge kingdom, and in that huge kingdom, he was a great king. Everyone loved him because of he used to care for everyone. But on top of that, he would still earn with his own two hands. So what power he would have is he would get metal and then he would be able to bend it with his own hands like we bend or we can play with Play-Doh or something. Like how easy it is for us to change that into a different shape. He was able to do that with metal. Like for us, that's impossible. But for him, iron and all that kind of stuff, he could change it into make it into a sword or shield, and then he would sell it. And then the money he would earn, that's what he would live off, and his family would live off. So even though he was a king, he wouldn't just rely on the money a king would have and the people would give to him. He would actually earn with his own two hands, which is something so great of him. So these are a few miracles of Prophet Dawood alayhi salam. He was a king, but he still earned his own money. So these were the miracles of Dawood alayhi salam, that he was given a book and that he had a beautiful voice and he was a great king, but he could even bend iron with his own two hands. He could bend iron and make whatever he wanted to make with it, like swords and shields and stuff. But we also learn through a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that fasting the way Dawood alayhi salam would fast is the best fast. So his fasting is the best, and it's known as Siyamu Dawood. Siyam is fasting, and Dawood is Dawood alayhi salam. So the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam is the best. What is the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam? So it is to fast one day. One day you fast, and then the second day you don't fast. But then the third day you fast, and the fourth day you don't fast. And the fifth day you fast, and then the sixth day you don't fast. And like that, you carry on. So one day you fast, but the other day you don't. Then you do, then you don't. So that is the fasting of Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam, what he used to do of fasting one day and not fasting one day, that is the best of fasting. Would you ever try this in the future? So inshallah, we should try this ever if you get an opportunity or if you were ever encouraged to do so. We fast one day and we don't the next day. And like that, we try to do as much as we can. So this is the fasting of Dawood alayhi salam. Now there's a short story mentioned as well before we hand it over to the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam. That like father, like son. Father was Dawood alayhi salam, the son was Sulaiman alayhi salam. And that's something you might not have known. Dawood alayhi salam was actually the father. Sulaiman alayhi salam is actually the son. And the son was just like his father. Sulaiman alayhi salam was just like his father, Dawood alayhi salam. And one story tells us how. Dawood alayhi salam was a king. And people from everywhere would come to him, asking him questions, telling him that we have this problem, and he would solve them all for the people in such a wise and perfect manner that no one could at that time see anyone much more wiser than Dawood alayhi salam. He was that wise. Anyway, at the time, two women had come to Dawood alayhi salam while young Sulaiman alayhi salam was sitting there. So two women had come. And Dawood alayhi salam was the king, so he was sitting on his throne or whatever he was sitting on. They had one child with them. The two women had come and they both had one child in them. But both of them said, this one child is my child. But the other woman was saying, no, it's my child. But the other woman was saying, no, it's my child. So they both had one child and they were fighting that it's mine, it's mine. So what happened to the other woman's child? Obviously, it can't be both of theirs. It's only one of theirs. So what happened to the other one? So a wolf had come and eaten one of them. So one of the parents, one of the mothers there, she lost her child. So what she tried to do is she tried to say that child of the other woman is my child. The other woman was like, no, it's my child, but who's telling the truth? They don't know who's telling the truth. So Dawood alayhi salam was a little confused and Sulaiman alayhi salam was a little confused. So they didn't know what to say or what to do. They both claimed that the child was theirs, both the women. What would you say to them? How would you solve this? One woman is saying, this baby is mine, but the other woman is saying, no, it's mine. So what would you say to them? How would you find out whose baby it is? But at that time, how Dawood alayhi salam did it was, Dawood alayhi salam said that the woman that's older, just give it to her. It's her child. The older woman is probably hers. But Sulaiman alayhi salam, that was sitting there, he thought of a better idea. And he thought, because he was just like his father, he was so wise. And he said, you know what? He said to someone, give me a knife, bring me a sword or a knife. And what I'll do is I'll half the baby. If I half the baby, I'll give you half and I'll give her half. So I'll give one woman half the baby and I'll give the other woman half a baby. And obviously he was saying this as a just to test them. He wasn't being serious, he was testing them. When he said this, the real mother, the mother of the child that was real, she couldn't bear that. She couldn't bear her son trying to be halved. Obviously, it wasn't going to happen, but she didn't know that. She thought he was telling the truth. So she, out of love for the child, said, it's okay, just give it to the other woman. Let the other woman have the baby. I don't want it. When she said that, Sulaiman alayhi salam then said to his father, see, the baby is actually hers. Because she had such love for the child, only she spoke out. Whereas the other woman, because it's not even her child, she didn't speak out at all. But the mother, the real mother, she's the only one that said, give it to her. It's okay, but don't harm the child. So from that, we learn the wisdom of Sulaiman alayhi salam, that he was just like his father. Dawud alayhi salam was so wise. And in this story, we learn how Sulaiman alayhi salam was so wise as well.